Do you know why so many gold hunters keep searching for plain white rocks across so many different regions of the United States? These white rocks do not produce any gold themselves, and they are not part of the direct process that forms gold. So how is it even possible that so much real gold ends up hidden among these pale, common-looking stones that almost everyone ignores? Most people glance at a pale rock in the dirt, decide it is worthless, and toss it aside without ever guessing what it might have been hiding. That is exactly what you are going to understand today. So subscribe to the channel and leave your like if this kind of knowledge helps you. Stick with me until the end, because after this video, you will walk through the outdoors and start seeing the ground with completely different eyes. The first thing you need to know is that the same underground fluid that built these white rocks is exactly what carried the gold and left it behind. Deep under the crust, there are places where heat and pressure grow so intense that water gets trapped and superheated far beyond anything you know. That trapped water becomes a scalding underground fluid loaded with dissolved minerals that it strips out of the hot rocks all around it. Among the minerals dissolved in that fluid are two that matter to us here, and they are silica along with tiny amounts of pure dissolved gold. Silica is simply the raw material that hardens into quartz, which is the pale glassy rock you often see scattered as white chunks on the surface. Long before it ever meets quartz, gold exists as scattered atoms spread thinly through vast volumes of hot rock miles beneath the surface. The magic of the hot fluid is that it gathers those scattered atoms, concentrates them, and delivers them upward into a single narrow crack. Without that natural gathering process, the gold would stay hopelessly spread out and far too thin for anyone to ever collect by hand. Under enormous pressure, this hot fluid forces its way into cracks, faults, and open fractures that run like hidden highways through the solid rock. Picture the crack as a long, thin chimney reaching up through the rock, with hot mineral water rising through it like steam through a narrow pipe. As the fluid climbs toward the surface, it slowly loses heat and pressure, and that simple change is what makes the dissolved minerals fall out of it. When the silica drops out, it crystallizes along the walls of the crack and hardens into a solid vein of white quartz over thousands of years. At almost the same moment, the gold that was riding inside that same fluid drops out too, settling into the quartz or along the edges of the vein. Each surge of fluid leaves a fresh layer behind, so a mature vein is really many thin coatings stacked together over an unimaginable stretch of time. So the white rock you find is really the frozen path of an ancient river of metal-rich water, and the gold is the treasure it left behind. Because the fluid pulsed again and again, some veins grew rich, while others stayed nearly barren, which is why two similar white rocks can differ so much. Quartz is extremely hard and it barely reacts to weather, so it can sit exposed for millions of years, while softer surrounding rock slowly rots away. Because the quartz survives, the gold locked inside it survives too, protected like a coin sealed inside a stone vault against wind and rain. That means a chunk of white quartz on the ground can act like a natural signpost, quietly marking where mineral-rich fluids once passed through. Over vast stretches of time, the wind, rain, and frost slowly break these hard veins apart, freeing the trapped gold from its ancient prison. That freed gold is heavy, so it tumbles downhill and settles into the sand and gravel of nearby creeks, where patient panners later scoop it up. This is why so many famous creeks and rivers hold gold, because somewhere uphill, an old white vein has been quietly crumbling for ages. So a single white outcrop can feed gold into the landscape for miles around, seeding both the hard rock and the streams that drain that slope. These veins rarely form just anywhere, since they favor regions where ancient mountains once rose and colossal forces cracked the crust wide open. Where continents slowly collided long ago, the crust buckled and split, opening the deep fractures that let those metal-rich fluids rise and spread. That is why gold country in the United States clusters in old mountain belts, from the ranges of the West to the worn hills of the East. The famous goldfields of California sit along a long band of such veins, formed where the land was crumpled and fractured over ages of pressure. Now you might think every white rock you kick over must be full of gold, but that would be a fast way to waste an entire weekend for nothing. The honest truth is that most white quartz holds no gold at all, which is why the clues on the surface of the rock matter far more than the white color itself. The first thing to watch for is quartz that cuts through darker rock like a pale ribbon, since that shape shows a real vein and not a random lump. A loose, milky stone means very little on its own, but a white vein slicing straight through gray or greenish rock is a setting worth studying. A bright white vein against dark rock also stands out from a long distance, so you could often spot a promising vein before you even reach it. The next clue is color, because clean, bright white quartz is often less interesting than quartz stained with rusty red, brown, or dirty yellow tones. Those rusty stains come from iron, and iron shows up when metal-bearing minerals slowly rot in the ground and bleed their color into the rock. Prospectors love that rusty look because the same underground chemistry that leaves iron stains very often carried gold through the same cracks. So when you spot a quartz vein streaked with orange and brown, almost like old rust on a forgotten tool, that is your cue to slow down and look. Another strong sign is what old-timers call rotten quartz, which is quartz that looks crumbly, sugary, or full of little holes instead of solid glass. Those little holes are often empty pockets where metal minerals once sat before they dissolved away, leaving gaps that hint at real activity below. You may also see dark specks or thin dark bands inside the quartz, and those can be sulfide minerals, the natural traveling partners of gold. One of the most common is a brassy yellow mineral known as pyrite, which fooled so many beginners that it earned the nickname Fool's Gold. Streams that cut across these old belts are a smart place to begin because the water has already sorted and revealed the rocks for you. Where a creek slices through bedrock, glance at the exposed walls for pale veins, since running water often lays them bare better than any shovel. After a heavy rain, the ground gets a natural wash, and freshly cleaned quartz can suddenly reveal stains and flecks that dry dust had been hiding. Old mining scars are another strong signal, because a hillside dotted with forgotten pits usually means gold was proven there before. Broken white rock piled near an old shaft or tunnel is worth a slow, careful search, since miners often left behind pieces they simply overlooked. Stay honest with yourself about quartz, because in some gold districts, the metal barely touches quartz and hides instead in dark iron-stained rock. In certain areas, the richest gold rides in veins made of other minerals entirely, so treat white quartz as one strong clue among several rather than a guarantee. Once you carry a promising white rock home, the real question begins, because you need to know whether those shiny flecks are gold or just pyrite. Start by breaking the rock open with a hammer while wearing eye protection, since fresh, clean surfaces reveal far more than dusty, weathered ones. One warning matters here, because crushing quartz throws fine silica dust into the air, and breathing that dust over time is genuinely bad for your lungs. So always wet the rock before you crush it and wear a simple dust mask, letting the water trap the powder so it never reaches your breathing. Now look closely at the shiny grains, because real gold shows a soft, buttery yellow that stays the same no matter how you turn it in the light. Pyrite instead flashes a harsh, brassy shine that shifts and sparkles as you tilt it, and it often forms neat little cubes with sharp, flat faces. Gold almost never forms clean cubes, and it appears instead as rounded flakes, ragged grains, or bright threads woven right through the quartz. Watch out for one more trickster called mica, a mineral that scatters flashy golden sparkles across a rock, yet crumbles into thin, weightless flakes. You can spot mica easily because it peels apart in paper-thin sheets and floats away in water, while heavy gold sinks and refuses to break up. A great home test uses an unglazed white tile, the rough underside of a bathroom or kitchen tile, which works like a cheap little laboratory. Drag the mineral across that rough tile, and true gold leaves a shiny golden streak, while pyrite leaves a dull greenish-black mark instead. You can also press the grain with a steel pin, because soft gold will dent and flatten like metal, while brittle pyrite simply cracks and shatters. A cheap magnet helps in the field too, since gold is never drawn to it, so any grain that jumps to the magnet is some other iron-rich mineral. Since gold is remarkably heavy for its size and sinks fast, far heavier than the fool's gold that mimics it. That heaviness is exactly why panning works so well, because gold sinks straight to the bottom of the pan while lighter sand and gravel wash away. If you find a white vein on a hillside, try panning the loose dirt in the gully just downhill, since gravity drags freed gold down that same slope. Catching a few bright flakes in your pan below a quartz outcrop is powerful proof that the vein above you was truly feeding gold into the ground. When you pan down to a stubborn layer of heavy black sand, search there hardest, because fine gold loves to hide among those dark grains that resist the water. Good lighting changes everything during these tests, so examine your grains under bright natural daylight rather than dim indoor bulbs that lie. A simple hand lens or jeweler's loupe reveals details your naked eye misses, turning a blurry speck into a clear little clue about what you hold. Under that magnified view, gold keeps its warm, even glow and rounded form, while pyrite betrays itself with sharp edges and that cold metallic flash. If a sample looks truly promising after all your simple tests, you can send a small piece to a lab for an assay that measures the real gold content. Keep your hopes grounded through all of this, because most finds are tiny specks and flakes rather than the thick, shining veins of a movie. Keep a small notebook of where each promising rock came from, so a lucky find can lead you straight back to its hidden source another day. Bring water, sturdy boots, and a way to call for help, since good gold ground often sits in rough, remote country far from the nearest road. Before you go digging, remember that a lot of promising ground sits on private land, mining claims, or protected and sacred sites you must respect. Always ask permission where you should, fill in any hole you open, and leave the land looking as good as it did when you first walked onto it. There is one more treasure that often hides in these very same white veins, quietly riding along with the gold and waiting for a sharper eye. That companion is silver, which travels in the same hot fluids and frequently settles right beside gold, sometimes even blended into the same grain. In many veins, the two metals mix so closely that a single flake can carry both at once, which means your gold discovery might be worth even more. The same fluids that carried gold and silver also left other metals behind, so a single rich vein can hold a small, buried fortune of mixed treasure. Learning to recognize silver stains and tarnish beside your quartz can quietly double the value of a spot you might have otherwise walked past. If you want to go deeper into signs like these and truly sharpen your eye in the field, the best next step is joining the members area of this channel. Inside the members area, you get closer guidance, extra breakdowns, and practical help that make every trip into the outdoors far more rewarding. It is a simple way to support the work here while getting real tools that turn a casual walk into a genuine hunt for gold and hidden silver. And if joining is not right for you today, that is completely fine, because you can still keep learning with everything shared here for free. Just subscribe to the channel and watch the next video already waiting for you on your screen, where the hunt continues with fresh ground to explore. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Good luck, Gold Hunter.